It started like any other Saturday afternoon at Bethpage Black, the sun blazing, the crowd electric, and the world's top golfers locked in a battle of pride and precision. But by the time the day ended, golf would never look the same again, because on that day, Rory McIlroy, the calm and collected face of European golf, did something no one expected. Something so shocking, so uncharacteristic, that it sent shockwaves across the entire sporting world. It wasn't a hole-in-one. It wasn't a miracle comeback. It was a single gesture, one that would redefine his image forever. From the very first tee shot of his four-ball match, something felt different. The atmosphere was thick, heavy with tension. Instead of polite applause, Rory was met with a wave of noise, not cheers, but chants. And not the playful kind. These were sharp, venomous, and coordinated. Every time he stepped up to the ball, the same chant echoed across the stands. For Rory! For Rory! It wasn't one fan. It wasn't 10. It was hundreds, maybe thousands, chanting in unison like a stadium mob. Spectators who came to see golf turned the green into a battlefield. It wasn't competition anymore. It was chaos. At first, Rory tried to ignore it. The cameras caught his expression. Calm, composed, focused. He whispered something to his partner Shane Lowry, maybe a joke to lighten the mood. But the pressure was visible. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. Still, he played brilliantly. Birdies dropped. Putts sank. Europe began to take the lead, but the crowd didn't quiet down. Each good shot only made the abuse louder. Every success fueled the anger of the home fans. They weren't just heckling, they were trying to break him. Reporters inside the ropes later said it wasn't like anything they had ever seen in golf. Some fans shouted insults about Rory's family, others mocked Shane Lowry's weight, and a few even screamed during Rory's backswing. Golf, the sport built on silence and respect, was suddenly louder than a football stadium. By the time Rory and Lowry reached the 11th green, the match was already tense. Lowry lined up his putt. The noise was deafening. He steadied his hands, took one final breath, and dropped the winning putt. The European section erupted in celebration, but the American crowd responded with fury. And then it happened. Rory turned to the crowd, face flushed, eyes blazing. He raised his left hand, and in a moment caught by every camera on the course, gave them the gesture that no one could believe, a single middle finger. It lasted barely a second, but it was enough. The golf world froze. The crowd gasped. Commentators went silent. And Rory McIlroy, golf's golden gentleman, had just done the unthinkable. Within minutes, social media exploded. Clips of the moment hit Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok before Rory even left the green. Fans argued. Some said he was right, finally standing up to toxic hecklers. Others called him unprofessional, a disgrace to the sport. But one thing was certain. Nobody was talking about golf anymore. This was bigger than a tournament. It was a moment that split the sport in half. On one side, the people who believed athletes have the right to defend themselves. On the other, the purists who said golf's tradition of calm should never be broken. But behind the headlines, something even darker was brewing. Hours after the footage went viral, an ESPN report revealed something shocking. The man leading the chants wasn't just a fan. He was the Ryder Cup's own first tee announcer, the official MC who had a microphone and authority over the crowd. He had been caught on a hot mic laughing and chanting along with the fans who were abusing Rory. By the next morning, he resigned in disgrace, and suddenly, the narrative shifted. This wasn't just a rowdy crowd. It wasn't just one man losing his cool. It was something much bigger, a system failure, a crack in the image of golf's most sacred event. The Ryder Cup, long celebrated for its sportsmanship and respect, had turned into a spectacle of hostility. Fans had gone too far, officials had lost control, and Rory had become the face of it all, the symbol of both defiance and disaster. That's when the headlines changed. Rory snaps at fans. Golf's darkest moment, sportsman or scandal. But here's the truth. Nobody saw what Rory endured that day. Behind the calm exterior was a man pushed to the edge by hours of abuse. Every insult, every chant, every roar chipped away until the silence he was supposed to maintain became impossible, and when he finally reacted, it wasn't calculated. It was human. That 1 second of defiance wasn't a breakdown. It was a breaking point, and that's what made it so powerful. Because for once, a professional athlete didn't smile through the hate. He didn't nod politely. He didn't hide behind PR words. He responded, raw, real, and unapologetic. Some fans called it shameful, others called it brave, but no one could look away. And as the day ended, golf was left with a question it had never faced before. When does passion become poison? When does rivalry cross the line into abuse? And when does a champion finally say, enough is enough? That night, as Rory left the course, photographers surrounded him. The look on his face said it all. Calm on the outside, fire on the inside, he didn't speak to reporters. Not yet. But his silence was louder than words. The next morning, that silence would break, and the world would hear Rory McIlroy like never before. Because the story wasn't over. It was only beginning. The air was thick with disbelief. Commentators had gone silent. Fans in the stands were frozen. And every pair of eyes was locked on Rory McIlroy, the man who had just changed the entire rhythm of the tournament. Moments earlier, he had stood at the 12th hole, down by 2 strokes, staring at what looked like an impossible putt. The green was fast, the slope brutal, and the crowd deadly quiet. Rory closed his eyes, took a slow breath, and whispered something under his breath. Now or never. He swung. The ball glided across the green, catching the right slope perfectly. For a split second, it seemed it would roll past the cup. But then it curved, kissed the edge, and dropped in. The crowd erupted. The camera zoomed in on Rory's face, emotionless, calm, almost unreal. It was as if he had expected it all along. But what came next turned this tournament into a golf legend. As Rory approached the 13th hole, reporters whispered about what they had just seen. The announcer's voice cracked with excitement. We might be witnessing the greatest comeback in recent golf history. Rory's next drive was pure poetry. A 320-yard missile that split the fairway in half. The commentators gasped. That's vintage McIlroy, one said. He's back. And he wasn't done. At the 14th, he faced a sand trap that had swallowed the hopes of every golfer before him. The crowd held its breath. Rory stepped into the bunker, studied the lie, and took his stance. The swing was crisp, sand exploded, and the ball arched high into the air, landing just inches from the pin. The crowd went wild. One fan screamed, "Rory's rewriting the script today." Even his caddy, Harry Diamond, shook his head in disbelief. "He's in another zone," he muttered. Back in the commentary booth, golf legend Nick Faldo said, "This isn't luck. This is the kind of focus that only comes once in a generation." By the 15th hole, Rory was now one shot behind the leader, a young challenger named Marcus Levin, who had dominated the tournament until that very moment. The tension between them was electric. Cameras caught a silent glance between the two on the fairway. Respect, rivalry, and fire. Then came the moment of truth, the 16th hole, a par 5 that demanded perfection. Rory's first drive was monstrous, easily clearing the bunker. Marcus followed, but sliced slightly to the right, landing in the rough. You could feel the momentum shift. The fans knew. The energy in the air screamed one thing. It's Rory's day. Rory's second shot was a risk. He could have played it safe, laid up, and aimed for birdie. But he didn't. He pulled out a fairway wood, eyes locked on the green, wind brushing against his face. His caddy hesitated. "Rory, that's a 235-yard carry over water," he warned. Rory didn't even look up. "Trust me," he said. The swing echoed across the course. The ball sailed through the air, perfect trajectory, clearing the water, landing softly, rolling within 10 feet of the hole. The crowd went insane. People were on their feet, waving flags, chanting his name. Even rival players on the practice green stopped to watch the replay on the big screen. "Unbelievable," said one. "He just went for it." Who does that under this kind of pressure? As Rory walked to the green, you could see something different in him. Confidence, peace, and purpose. He wasn't chasing victory anymore. He was creating history. Marcus tried to answer back, but his next chip overshot the hole. The crowd gasped. And Rory saw his opportunity. With a soft smile, he lined up his eagle putt. Silence fell over the entire course. You could hear the wind brushing through the trees. He drew back the putter. Tap the ball rolled. Straight. Perfect. In the heart of the cup. Eagle. Rory clenched his fist, looked to the sky, and the roars echoed for miles. He's tied for the lead. The commentator shouted. And just like that, and the man everyone had doubted, the man who had struggled for months with form and criticism, was suddenly back on top. After the 16th, Rory turned toward his caddy and said something that the mic barely caught. "This isn't just golf. This is redemption." That line would go viral later, replayed millions of times, quoted on every sports page, and etched into golf history forever. As he headed toward the 17th, The sun began to dip, painting the course in golden light. It felt cinematic, as if the universe itself had scripted this comeback. And yet, what happened next would shock Eve.